Good evening, Americans, and welcome to the Ed Show live from New York. Let's get to work.
The reality is that American poor people are not malnourished. They, in fact, eat too much food.
49 million Americans are struggling to put food on the table every single day.
The House will consider a bill that will cut food stamps, SNAP, by $40 billion.
I understand people's frustration.
They want to gouge deeply into our nation's most important and successful anti-hunger program.
Obama's policies have resulted in a lot more people being on food stamps.
He's doubled the number of people on food stamps.
He's encouraging parasites.
The poor in this country have suffered more under this president than any president in my memory.
This is the most effective food stamp president in American history.
Can't you see that this is viewed at a minimum as insulting to all Americans, but particularly to black Americans?
No, I don't see that.
They want to take food out of the mouths of hungry men, women, and children all over America.
I understand people's frustration. I really do.
Don't you forget about me. My goal on this program tonight is to reach out and hopefully touch you in your living room and appeal to your very best sensibilities and your compassion. We as Americans, we're pretty much a compassionate country, a compassionate society. Something bad happens to your next door neighbor, you're there. In a conversation, in some way, you feel, doggone it, I can't believe that happened to Charlie. That kind of attitude. But you know what? In Congress, they don't have that attitude. They're not like your next door neighbor, vice versa. This is a live picture right now on the House floor. There is a very serious debate taking place. At this hour, your elected representatives are debating to cut a food stamp bill known as SNAP by a whopping $40 billion over the next 10 years. For the Republicans, this is their best issue. They're expected to vote within the next hour. We'll bring it to you live here on The Ed Show because I want everybody who watches this program to make sure they consume exactly what the Republicans are focused on. Now, if this bill passes, it will cut out $4 billion a year out of the food stamp program, the most vulnerable Americans. If Republicans go along with these cuts, 3.8 million Americans would lose their food assistance. Assistance. Not gravy train, just assistance. A little bit. Democrats went to the firewall on the House floor today. They had no problem calling out Republicans on their heartless cuts.
It makes no economic sense either to cut $40 billion from food stamps for the poor while preserving $90 billion in crop insurance for the wealthy.
It's just unconscionable that they would think that somehow this is the road to prosperity. That you get to the road by prosperity by attacking the most vulnerable in our society.
The absolute insult. A state like Texas that is prosperous, you give them the instruction to cut people off of food stamps and then give them a bonus for hurting people and taking their life away.
Mr. Speaker.
This is
Mr. Speaker, regular order, please.
Vote down this
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Bill. I yield back.
Let's be fair. Both sides of the story here. Uncut tape. Meanwhile, Republicans say cutting food stamps leads to self-reliance.
There is dignity in work. And I'm supporting this bill today because I want to see, as I know all of us do, more success stories like Sherry's. And the reforms made by this bill will put people on the path to self-sufficiency and independence.
Oh, yeah, we don't have any jobs for you, but we just know you're going to be on the path to self-sufficiency. Let me give you the numbers. In order to qualify for food stamps, do you know what the numbers are? Do you know how low the numbers are? As an individual, we're talking $14,000 a year or less. Now, if you take $14,532 and you divide it into 40-hour week, 2,080 hours a year, that comes to a whopping $6.73 an hour. The Republicans think that if you are a single mom making $6.73 an hour, you're making too damn much, and you should see your assistance cut. Meanwhile, members of the Congress who are voting on these cuts, you know what they make? They make $174,000 a year. And this is the disconnect. They are out of touch with how a lot of Americans live, and they don't give a damn. The average net wealth of a member of the United States Congress is over $900,000. Put that kind of money in the market and see what kind of return you get. These are the people who are deciding if the poor people can eat. Isn't it really unbelievable, the selfishness in America right now? But wait a minute, I said at the top of the broadcast that we're a compassionate country, a compassionate family of American citizens that love to reach out and touch one another. Members of Congress are pretty well off. Seldom do you ever hear them complaining about money. Well, they can vote themselves a raise. They can increase their pension. They can increase their health care benefit. Can you do that? But not this guy. He doesn't think he doesn't think he makes enough. I'm talking about good old Phil Gingrich from the state of Georgia. He's jealous of the people who make more than he does. And he's not happy with $172,000 a year. He recently said on Capitol Hill that aides on Capitol Hill, they may be 33 years old, but not making a lot of money. But in a few years, they can just go down the street to K Street and they can make over $500,000 a year. Meanwhile, he's stuck here making $172,000 a year. Now, is that a twisted sister mindset or what? Cry me a river, Mr. Gingrich. A lot of people in America, I think, would really love to have this guy's check every 2 weeks. The average individual income in this country is $40,000 a year. So if you make $20 an hour and you make $40,000 a year, you're pretty normal. That's the start of the middle class right there. Gingrich's individual income puts him in the 98th percentile of individual income in this country. He's a top 2%er, and he doesn't think he has it good enough. Now, overall, Phil Gingrich, we are told, is worth between $3 and $7 million. This guy is totally unbelievable, and he is a microcosm of what the Republican Party is all about. He's your typical anti-Obamacare hating machine. He wants the food stamps cut. In fact, earlier this year, he was the only member of the Georgia delegation to vote against the Farm Bill because the food stamp cuts, you know what? They didn't go far enough. We'll see how this poor billionaire votes on taking food away from the poor people later tonight. It's supposed to happen in our hour. Gingrich is just one example of just how callous and how out of touch the members of Congress are with the American people. It's a symptom of a greater sickness. The first thing is we are talking about a select society. They can vote themselves a raise. They can increase their pension. They can increase their health care benefit. You cannot do that unless you own the company. So we have a society that can protect their turf. You know what? It used to be the people's house. Not anymore. It's the house of the 1%. And you know what they do, as they are doing in that building right now? They are voting to take away from the most vulnerable Americans. And you know what? They don't think they make enough. You want to know why this country is screwed up and why there's so much negativity and why we can't get anything done? Because the realism isn't there anymore. We have a true disconnect between the select society making all the laws and the people who have to live with them. The 1% is picking on the most vulnerable. But they're all Christians, aren't they? They love to talk about God coming into their life. I mean, if you listen to Michelle Bachmann just a few weeks ago, she's guided by the Lord. In fact, there's a bunch of Christian coalition outfits that make sure that the Republicans have plenty of money in their next election cycle. Is it Christian to do this? And you know what this mindset, this type of activity brings us? This. What I talk about all the time, the vulture chart. These kinds of votes right here bring us to a country like this. Do you think that's fair? Do you think it's fair? that people who are making less than $14,000 a year should have their assistance cut? Is that the sensibility I was asking about at the top of the show? Is that as good as we can be as Americans? This vulture chart represents not only an income gap, it represents a mindset in the United States Congress by the select society that can protect their ass and their backside. And today's vote to go after people on food stamps is exactly exemplifying what this chart is all about. I'm ashamed. We need to speak up. This is wrong. This is morally wrong. Christians don't do this. And the only reason why I throw faith into this is because there are so many conservative lawmakers that love to play the faith card. They love to talk about morality. What's moral about this vote? Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question: do Republicans have any idea how average American lives? Text A for yes, text B for no to 67622. You can go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com and light up the Twitter world if you think I'm wrong. Ed, you're really off base. Come on, give it to me. Tell me I'm wrong on this. I'm not. I'm 100% right. I am with conviction spot on this story. It should be the lead story everywhere, in my opinion, if we give a damn about income inequality in this country, if we are the compassionate country that we claim to be. This is story number one. And I think story number two is how twisted Eric Cantor is, because it was Eric Cantor who stood up in a town hall meeting when a woman had a story about health care. He told her to go get charity. I remember that. Well, there's a lot of charitable organizations that you can go to if you're sick. Show me some charity tonight. Vote no on this. And you as a citizen, don't forget how they vote on it. For more, let's bring in Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky of Illinois and former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm. Great to have both of you with us tonight.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Congresswoman, you first. Please respond to Eric Cantor's claim this bill will lead to self-reliance. He just on the floor a few moments said that.
It's so painful even to respond to that kind of demonizing of people who need some help over a hump. You know, most people, the average is less than a year on the SNAP program. I don't understand Eric Cantor being willing to take food out of the mouths of hungry children. Almost half of the SNAP recipients are children. Are they supposed to go to work? Are the mothers of an infant supposed to go to work? And by the way, there are strict work requirements already built into the program. And I'll tell you, Ed, I did the SNAP program for a week, lived on $4.50 a day. It's not easy to do. And I'll tell you, Eric Cantor, all of my colleagues who do go to church on Sunday or synagogue on Saturday or to the mosque on Friday, all the religions, and you brought it up, are urging a no vote to cut the SNAP program. They're urging the members of Congress to vote yes, because this is a moral issue. This is a compassionate country. And one more thing, for every dollar for the SNAP program generates about $1.70 in economic activity. So even from an economic point of view, this is a really good program.
Jennifer Granholm, you're the former governor of Michigan. What will this do to people in metropolitan areas who are struggling?
I mean, there is no question about what it would do, Ed, and I just want to give you a standing O for starting this program so strong. I think that we should be on this program challenging every single Republican member of the House who votes yes to cut this, to go on that food stamp challenge, to try to live on $4.50 a day. You raised the issue of morality. Well, in the 25th chapter of Matthew, the Lord says, whatsoever you do unto unto the least of these, you do unto me. I'd like to see these Republicans looking at their pastor or at their house of worship on Sunday, and say, yes, I served the Lord by cutting poor people off. Ask this new Pope who's been all about serving the poor. It's more than an outrage. This is a moral issue. Who are we as a nation, the richest nation on the face of the earth, to cut 4 to 6 million people, the most vulnerable, off of food? Shame on us.
Congresswoman, what do you make of Phil Gingrich's comments? Does he exemplify a mindset in Congress? Do most people in Congress, using your judgment here, in your opinion, do they really think they're underpaid when the rest of the country is struggling in many respects?
Isn't that stunning? $174,000 a year, and Phil Gingrich thinks he needs to make more money.
That's a top 2% are complaining about his income.
Phil Gingrich is a doctor. And children who can't get the nutrition, seniors who can't eat properly. And by the way, 7% of those who are on the SNAP program are military veterans. This is not healthy for our country.
Oh, I thought we support the troops.
No, not always. Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Granholm, looking down the road, is this going to be the Republicans shooting themselves in the foot? This is just, the war on women, the attack on labor, and now picking on the poor. And that's exactly what this is. This is picking on the most vulnerable in our society. But let's keep in mind, politically speaking, this is the least powerful group in America, too.
Well, it is, but think about this, Ed. 48% of households headed by women, 48% of single mothers who have young children at home are now living in poverty in America. 48%. So if you don't think this is part of, or they don't think this is part of a war on women and on children, they got something else coming. But I can tell you those single moms are not interested in the arguments over Keynes versus Hayek, Ayn Rand versus Paul Krugman.
Exactly.
They want to put food on their table. This is a pragmatic issue for people who just want to survive. And anybody who thinks that cutting food stamps is going to create jobs and cause people to be more self-sufficient when there's only one job for every 3 people who are looking has got something else coming. This is the wrong way to attack growth in the economy. Invest in job creation. Don't cut people off when they need it most.
All right. We will follow this vote and bring it to you when it comes down in this hour. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky and former governor of Michigan Jennifer Granholm, great to have you with us tonight. And I think that there is a real parallel between the 40-some-odd votes to strike down Obamacare in the House and what the House is doing right now. And we all know how the vote's going to turn out. They're going to cut $40 billion out of food stamps. That's what they want to do. Just think if we didn't have a Democratic Senate or a Democrat in the White House.